hypothetically, if we lived in an atheistic universe, I think probably aliens don't exist. Whereas I think in a theistic universe, I think it's actually quite likely that aliens exist. So it's kind of like separating out those kind of possibilities.
Well, why? So, but to explain your reasoning there. So why is it more likely in a theistic universe for aliens to exist than otherwise?
Yeah, I think part of it comes down to kind of these scientific issues with abiogenesis, which is the study of the origin of life itself, right? So like, typically when we think about like the evolutionary process, since Darwin, this idea that once you had the first form of life, the first cell, the first replicator, then, given enough time, that could evolve into something more complex like us, right? That's the theory, at least. But I think that there's this problem from going from non-living chemicals to the first cell or the first replicator, that even though scientists have been working on that for decades and decades, we really haven't made much progress in that area. And there's many, many problems in that area where it seems almost impossible for life to come into being. Like once you have the replicator, like enough mutations and things like that, you can get more complex stuff. But I think that there's lots of problems there in the physics and the chemistry of how you can get to the first replicator. And so that's why I think that apart from God intervening in some way, it's very, very, very unlikely for life to come into being from non-life. And so at least from my perspective, and this is something that I worked on a little bit in my undergraduate, at least thinking about this, because one of the things I did was organic chemistry. And in the organic chemistry lab, we have to work really carefully to create even the simplest organic chemicals, right? And so if we get to the level of like RNA and DNA and proteins and things like that, it's very difficult to see how we could get to that without a pre-existing kind of framework for producing these kind of macromolecules. Anyway, so I don't want to get too deep into the chemistry aspects of it. So that's why I say, like, in a universe in which God didn't exist, I think life would be so rare that even if aliens did exist, it would be super unlikely we would ever come across one, right? Whereas in a theistic universe, I think the difference would be that maybe God in his creativity and in his power would say, hey, I want life to exist in every one of these billions of galaxies, right? Or maybe in many of these planets around these stars in the Milky Way or something like that, right? So God might have intentions or desires to seed life throughout the galaxy or throughout the universe, whereas on an atheistic universe, it would be a lot less likely.